Do you like being rich?
Of course.
What do you do with your
I
money?
flaunt it.
What do you do with your money?
The year is 1975. Queen is broke, exhausted, and one step away from losing everything they've worked for. Their record label wants a safe hit, something radio-friendly, something that fits the rules. Instead, the band walks into the studio and delivers a 6-minute monster that no one understands. It has no chorus. It shifts from gentle ballad to thunderous opera to screaming rock. It sounds like nothing else on the radio. Music executives laugh when they hear it. Critics predict total failure. Some even call it career suicide. What happens next doesn't just save a band from collapse, it rewrites the history of rock music forever. This is the story of Bohemian Rhapsody, the song that shut everyone up. Picture this moment. 4 young men sitting in a cramped studio, listening to playback of something they know is special. But special doesn't pay the bills, special doesn't guarantee radio play, and special definitely doesn't convince record executives who think they've lost their minds. The clock on the wall shows 6 minutes and 3 seconds. In an industry where 3 minutes is the golden rule, they've just created something twice as long. It starts with a piano, then voices blend into impossible harmonies, then it explodes into opera, then it becomes the hardest rock you've ever heard. They look at each other and know they're holding either their ticket to stardom or their musical death sentence. The label executives are already shaking their heads, radio programmers are already saying no, music critics are already preparing their harsh reviews. But sometimes the most dangerous gamble becomes the biggest victory. Sometimes breaking every rule creates something so powerful that it forces the world to write new rules. Sometimes 4 musicians from London can create 6 minutes of pure magic that will still be playing in cars, concerts, and movies. Almost 50 years later, this is that story. The story of how Queen took the biggest risk of their lives and turned it into one of the greatest songs ever recorded. The story of how they almost lost everything and instead gained immortality. Because Bohemian Rhapsody wasn't just a song, it was a revolution. And revolutions, as we're about to see, don't follow anyone's rules but their own. By the middle of 1975, Queen stands at a dangerous crossroads. The band has worked without rest for years, building their sound and their identity. They have 3 albums behind them now: Queen, Queen 2, and Sheer Heart Attack. Each one earned critical attention and loyal fans, but that rise in fame hasn't translated into financial stability. The truth is brutal. The band members are broke. They're drowning in legal disputes with their management. They're questioning how much longer they can keep going. Despite packed concert halls and screaming fans, most of the money disappears before it reaches their pockets. They look like rock stars on stage, but behind the scenes, their future hangs by a thread. The rehearsals that fans imagine as pure joy are often tense and silent. Arguments break out over small things because everyone's nerves are frayed. Studio time isn't just expensive, it's a gamble with money they don't have. Every extra hour of recording feels like debt they might never pay back. At night, when the lights go down and the crowds go home, the conversations turn dark. What if the next album flops? What if the record label finally loses patience with their experimental ideas? What if they've pushed too hard, too fast, and now they're about to lose everything? This isn't just about fame anymore, it's about survival. 4 young men with extraordinary dreams are learning the hard way that the music industry can crush those dreams without warning. Meanwhile, the rules of the game are crystal clear. Radio stations want simple songs, short songs, catchy songs that fit between commercials. 3 minutes is the golden limit. No long guitar solos, no strange detours into different styles, nothing that might confuse listeners or make them change the station. The charts are dominated by predictable pop hits, safe choices that keep executives happy and DJs comfortable. Record companies don't want artists to experiment. They want artists to deliver what's already proven to work. But Queen has never been a band built for safety. They don't want to follow formulas written by other people. Freddie Mercury, especially, hates the idea of being ordinary. He wants something bigger, something theatrical, something no one can ignore. He's not chasing a hit, he's chasing immortality. As the pressure mounts from all sides, the band faces an impossible choice. Play it safe and maybe survive another year, or risk everything on something so ambitious it might destroy them completely. The smart move is obvious. Write a 3-minute love song, get some radio play, keep the label happy, live to fight another day. But when has Queen ever made the smart move? The idea comes to Freddie Mercury long before it hits the studio. In later interviews, he admits that pieces of what will become Bohemian Rhapsody have been floating in his head for years. He's scribbled fragments in notebooks under different titles. Sometimes he calls it the cowboy song. It starts as bits and pieces, a ballad section here, an operatic chorus there, like pieces of a musical puzzle that only he can see. He sits at the piano in his Kensington flat, hammering out melodies late into the night. His mind races far beyond what radio-friendly rock is supposed to sound like. While most artists are chasing simple hooks, Freddie is sketching a symphony disguised as a single. When he finally brings the idea to the band, their reactions are mixed. They know Freddie is brilliant, his instincts have guided them this far, but this new concept sounds completely insane by every industry standard. 6 minutes long, no clear chorus that repeats, shifting styles like chapters in a novel. It will start as a gentle ballad, explode into grand opera, then become the hardest rock they've ever played. Brian May remembers thinking it was unusual, but we were used to unusual with Freddie. The band has learned to trust his vision, even when they can't fully grasp where he's heading. Roger Taylor and John Deacon exchange glances. They know this isn't what the record label expects. It's not what radio stations want. It's definitely not what their management considers a safe bet. But there's something in Freddie's eyes when he plays those piano parts. Something that says this isn't just another song idea. This is the song that could change everything. They make a decision that will either destroy their career or launch them into rock history. They decide to trust Freddie completely, to turn his impossible vision into reality. The recording begins at Rockfield Studios in rural Wales. From the first day, everyone knows this session will be different from anything Queen has attempted before. The song demands perfection in every detail. Every harmony has to be flawless. Every transition has to be seamless. Freddie insists on layer upon layer of vocal harmonies. He wants to build entire choirs using just 3 voices, his, Brian's, and Roger's. They record for hours, stacking take after take, until the tape reels strain under the weight of overdubs. The operatic section alone consumes days of relentless work. Freddie orchestrates every line like a conductor commanding a full orchestra, but his orchestra consists of 3 rock musicians singing Scaramouche and Galileo until their voices are raw. This isn't just recording a song, this is building architecture out of sound. The band members push themselves harder than they ever have before. Brian crafts guitar parts that shift from gentle fingerpicking to thunderous power chords. Roger's drums build from whispers to explosions. John's bass holds everything together like the foundation of a house, but it's Freddie's vision that drives every decision. When someone suggests shortening a section, he refuses. When the label asks for a radio edit, he won't even consider it. This song will be exactly what it's meant to be, or it won't exist at all. As the days pass, something magical happens in that Welsh studio. The impossible starts to sound inevitable. The pieces that seemed random begin forming a perfect whole. What started as Freddie's crazy idea becomes something none of them could have created alone. They're not just making a song anymore, they're creating a statement, a declaration that rock music can be anything it wants to be, that artists don't have to follow rules written by people who've never held a guitar or sat behind a piano. By the time they finish recording, they know they've created something extraordinary. But they also know the real battle is just beginning, because now they have to convince the world that a 6-minute opera rock epic belongs on the radio. That battle will determine whether Queen becomes a footnote in rock history or legends who changed the game forever. The completed recording of Bohemian Rhapsody is unlike anything that's ever been captured on tape. 6 minutes and 3 seconds of pure ambition turned into reality. It starts with Freddie alone at the piano, his voice vulnerable and searching. "Mama just killed a man." The words hang in the air like a confession. Then the song begins its impossible journey. The ballad section builds slowly, carefully. Brian's guitar enters like a gentle conversation with Freddie's voice. The harmonies stack and blend until they sound like a cathedral choir. But just when listeners think they understand what they're hearing, everything changes. The opera section explodes without warning. "Scaramouche, will you do the fandango?" Voices bounce off each other like acrobats in midair. Freddie, Brian, and Roger become an entire opera company, their harmonies so complex that sound engineers have to work overtime just to capture them cleanly. Then, just as suddenly, the operatic madness stops. Silence. One guitar note, and the hardest rock section Queen has ever recorded crashes in like a thunderstorm. So you think you can stone me and spit in my eye? Freddie's voice becomes a primal scream backed by Roger's thunderous drums and Brian's blazing guitar. Finally, the song returns to its gentle beginning. The circle closes. Nothing really matters. The piano returns. Freddie's voice becomes a whisper, and then it's over. The band sits in the studio, listening to playback, knowing they've created something that doesn't fit in any category. It's not a ballad, it's not an opera, it's not hard rock. It's all of those things, and something entirely new. The lyrics remain a mystery, even to the band members. Freddie offers only cryptic hints about their meaning. Lines like Bismillah and Beelzebub puzzle everyone who asks about them. When pressed for explanations, Freddie just smiles and says it's all nonsense, but fans will spend decades trying to decode every word. Some hear a young man confessing to murder, others hear Freddie wrestling with his own identity. Still others think it's pure theater, meaningless but beautiful. The truth is probably all of those things, and none of them. What matters is the emotion. The song feels like a complete human experience compressed into 6 minutes. Joy, fear, anger, peace, all of it swirling together in a way that makes perfect sense, even when the words don't. The recording process has pushed everyone to their limits. They've used 24-track recording to its absolute maximum, layering so many vocal parts that the tape is practically transparent from overdubs. Some sections required more than 70 separate vocal tracks to create the full choir sound. Freddie's perfectionism has driven the sessions to exhaustion, but the results speak for themselves. Every harmony is precisely where it needs to be. Every guitar note serves the larger vision. Every drum hit adds to the building intensity. Brian May's guitar work shifts personalities like an actor playing multiple roles. Gentle acoustic picking becomes soaring electric leads, becomes crushing power chords. His famous homemade guitar, built with his father from an old fireplace mantel, proves it can handle anything Freddie's imagination demands. Roger Taylor's drumming provides the backbone that holds together all the genre shifts. From whispered brushes to arena-shaking thunder, his playing anchors every section while never overwhelming Freddie's theatrical vision. John Deacon's bass work might be the most crucial element of all. His lines weave through the complex arrangements like threads holding a tapestry together. Without his steady foundation, the song's ambitious structure would collapse under its own weight, but it's Freddie's vocals that make the impossible seem effortless. He sings every role in his opera, the frightened young man in the ballad, the dramatic characters in the operatic section, the defiant rocker in the hard section. Each voice distinct, each emotion completely believable. When they finally finish, the band knows they've created their masterpiece. But masterpieces don't automatically become hits, and hits are what they need to survive in the brutal music business of 1975. The question now isn't whether Bohemian Rhapsody is a great song. The question is whether the world is ready for something this revolutionary. When Queen delivers Bohemian Rhapsody to their record label, they expect some resistance. What they get instead is something closer to horror. The executives stare at the timer on the tape machine. 6 minutes and 3 seconds. Their faces show everything the band needs to know about what comes next. Too long for radio, one executive says flatly. No station will play it. Too weird, says another. Listeners won't understand it. Cut it down to 3 minutes, comes the demand that Freddie has been dreading. Take out the opera part, make it simple. For Freddie Mercury, this isn't just a suggestion, it's an insult to everything he's worked to create. He looks across the conference room table and delivers his response with complete finality. You either release it as it is, or not at all. The room goes quiet. This isn't how these meetings usually go. Artists don't give ultimatums to record labels. Labels give ultimatums to artists. But Freddie isn't backing down, and neither is the rest of Queen. The pressure becomes overwhelming. This isn't just another single they're arguing about. Bohemian Rhapsody is supposed to be the lead track from their new album, A Night at the Opera. If it fails, it could drag the entire project down with it. And if the album fails, Queen might not get another chance. The record company executives pull out every argument they can think of. Radio programmers won't play 6-minute songs. Listeners have short attention spans. The song shifts too many times. It's too complicated for mass appeal. If we edit this, Freddie argues with growing passion, it's no longer what it's meant to be. You'll destroy everything we've worked to build. The standoff grows more tense by the day. Millions of dollars hang in the balance, not just Queen's future, but the careers of everyone involved in the project. Producers, engineers, studio musicians, marketing teams, all of them waiting to see whether this gamble will pay off or destroy everything. Behind the scenes, the band members wrestle with doubt. Maybe the label is right. Maybe they've pushed too far this time. Maybe artistic vision isn't worth financial suicide. But every time they listen to the song, they know they can't compromise. Every harmony, every shift, every dramatic moment serves the larger purpose. Cut any piece and the whole structure collapses. The weeks drag on with no resolution. The label suggests bringing in other producers to fix the song. They offer to hire professional arrangers to simplify the orchestration. They even suggest recording a completely different single and saving Bohemian Rhapsody for an album deep cut. Each suggestion makes Freddie more determined to protect his vision. This song represents everything Queen stands for. Their refusal to be ordinary, their commitment to pushing boundaries, their belief that rock music can be anything it wants to be. This is what we are, he tells the band during one late-night strategy session. If they can't handle what we are, then maybe we're with the wrong people. The threat is real. Queen could walk away from their record deal rather than compromise their artistic integrity. But walking away might mean the end of their career entirely. Other labels might not want to take a risk on a band that's already been dropped for being too difficult. The conflict reveals the fundamental tension in the music business: art versus commerce, vision versus market research, the hunger to create something meaningful against the need to pay bills and stay alive in a ruthless industry. As the deadlock continues, everyone involved begins to realize this fight is about more than one song. It's about whether artists can maintain control over their own creativity, whether record labels exist to serve music, or whether music exists to serve record labels. The resolution, when it finally comes, will arrive from the most unexpected source, and it will change not just Queen's fate, but the entire landscape of what popular music can be. The breakthrough comes from an unlikely ally. Kenny Everett is a flamboyant radio DJ and a close personal friend of Freddie Mercury's. They share a love of theatrical performance and pushing boundaries. When Freddie slips him a copy of Bohemian Rhapsody with strict instructions not to play it on air, Everett promises he won't. It's a promise he breaks almost immediately. Everett falls in love with the song the moment he hears it. The 6-minute journey from ballad to opera to hard rock feels like pure magic to him. He can't understand why anyone would want to hide something this extraordinary from the world. So he doesn't hide it, he plays it. Not once, not twice, but 14 times over 2 days on his popular radio show. Each time the song plays, the station's phone lines light up like Christmas trees. Listeners call in demanding to know what they just heard. Record stores get flooded with requests for a single that hasn't been officially released yet. Music fans start showing up at Queen concerts asking the band to play that new opera song. The underground buzz explodes into something no record label can ignore. Within days, Bohemian Rhapsody has gone from industry joke to must-have commodity. The demand isn't coming from corporate marketing departments or radio consultants. It's coming directly from the people who buy records and go to concerts. Public pressure forces the label's hand in a way that no amount of arguing could have accomplished. Suddenly, the same executives who called the song career suicide are scrambling to get it released as quickly as possible. The transformation is almost comical. Yesterday's unmarketable disaster becomes tomorrow's innovative breakthrough. The 6-minute length stops being a problem and starts being a selling point. The genre shifts, stop being confusing, and start being revolutionary. But Kenny Everett's rebellion does more than just create demand. It proves that Bohemian Rhapsody works exactly as intended. Listeners don't get confused by the opera section. They don't tune out during the 6-minute runtime. They don't need a simplified radio edit to understand what they're hearing. Instead, they fall in love with every unexpected twist and turn. They sing along with the operatic voices, even when they don't understand the words. They air guitar through the hard rock section. They whisper along with the gentle ending. The song that was too complex for mass appeal turns out to be exactly what mass appeal was missing. The success of Everett's unofficial premiere changes everything about how Queen approaches the official release. Instead of defending their artistic choices, they can now celebrate them. Instead of apologizing for the song's length and complexity, they can embrace those elements as strength. The label's marketing strategy shifts completely. Rather than trying to make Bohemian Rhapsody fit existing categories, they decide to create a new category around it. The song becomes the centerpiece of a campaign that promises listeners something they've never heard before. Radio stations that initially refused to consider playing a 6-minute single suddenly find themselves under pressure from their own listeners to add it to rotation. Program directors who built their careers on safe, predictable playlists discover that their audiences are hungry for something bold and different. The music press, which loves nothing more than discovering trends before anyone else, jumps on the Bohemian Rhapsody story. Critics who might have dismissed the song as pretentious nonsense find themselves writing about Queen's artistic courage and innovative vision. By the time the official release date arrives in October 1975, Bohemian Rhapsody isn't just another single competing for attention, it's a cultural event, something that music fans have been talking about, arguing about, and anticipating for weeks. The song that record executives said would never work has already proven them wrong before it even officially exists. Kenny Everett's act of friendship and rebellion has transformed Queen's biggest risk into their greatest opportunity. All that remains is to see whether the official release can live up to the underground legend that's already building around it. Bohemian Rhapsody is officially released on October 31, 1975. Halloween seems appropriate for a song this haunting and theatrical. Within days, it becomes clear that Kenny Everett's underground preview was just the beginning. The song doesn't just climb the charts, it conquers them. In the United Kingdom, Bohemian Rhapsody rockets to #1 and stays there for 9 consecutive weeks. It becomes the fastest-selling single in British history up to that point. Record stores can't keep copies in stock. Radio stations play it so often that other artists complain about not getting airtime. But the success spreads far beyond Britain. The song dominates charts around the world, proving that music has a universal language that transcends cultural boundaries. Countries that have never shown much interest in British rock suddenly embrace Queen's theatrical masterpiece. The triumph isn't just commercial, it's cultural. Bohemian Rhapsody rewrites the rules about what popular music can be. Radio programmers who swore they'd never play a 6-minute single find themselves building their playlists around it. Record labels that dismissed experimental music start encouraging their artists to take bigger creative risks. The song's success validates everything Queen believed about their artistic vision. The same executives who once called it a disaster now brag about their role in its release. Critics who predicted failure suddenly discover Queen's genius. The music industry learns a hard lesson about underestimating what audiences actually want. But Bohemian Rhapsody changes more than just the music business. It transforms Queen from struggling artists into cultural icons. They're no longer outsiders fighting for recognition. They're architects of a new era in rock music. The song also revolutionizes music videos. Queen's promotional clip, shot for just a few £1,000s, becomes a template for the future of music television. Years before MTV exists, Bohemian Rhapsody proves that visual presentation can be as important as audio recording. The video's images become iconic. The 4 band members' faces emerging from black backgrounds. The operatic section's overlapping vocals matched with overlapping visuals. The hard rock section's headbanging performance. It's not just a song anymore, it's a complete audio-visual experience. This multimedia approach gives Queen complete creative control over how their music is presented. They never again have to worry about being told what they can or cannot do. The success of Bohemian Rhapsody earns them the freedom to dream even bigger, experiment even more boldly. From this moment forward, no Queen project will be considered too ambitious, no stage production will be too grand, no musical experiment will be too risky. Freddie Mercury has kicked down the door, and the rest of the band walks through it into immortality. The financial problems that nearly destroyed them just months earlier become distant memories. The legal disputes get resolved. The management conflicts disappear. Success solves problems that seemed impossible just a year before. But more importantly, Queen has proven something fundamental about the relationship between artists and audiences. People are hungrier for originality than the music industry gives them credit for. They want to be surprised, challenged, and moved by music that dares to be different. Bohemian Rhapsody becomes the anthem for everyone who's ever been told their dreams are too big, too weird, or too ambitious. It's proof that breaking the rules can create something more powerful than following them ever could. The song that was supposed to be career suicide instead becomes the foundation for one of the most successful careers in rock history. Queen will go on to fill stadiums around the world, create more groundbreaking music, and inspire countless other artists to take their own creative risks. But it all starts here, with 6 minutes and 3 seconds of pure audacity that refuse to be anything less than perfect. The story of Bohemian Rhapsody doesn't end with its initial success. What begins as a risky experiment in 1975 becomes a timeless force that refuses to fade, even as decades pass. The song lives multiple lives across different generations, proving that true artistry transcends any single era. The first resurrection comes in 1991, under the darkest of circumstances. Freddie Mercury passes away on November 24th after a private battle with AIDS. The news shocks the world, and suddenly, Bohemian Rhapsody transforms from a hit song into a hymn of remembrance. Fans around the globe respond to their grief by playing the song constantly. Radio stations dedicate entire days to Queen's music. The track soars back to #1 in the UK, climbs the charts again in the United States, and dominates airwaves worldwide. The same critics who once called it too weird to work now call it untouchable. Freddie's death proves that Bohemian Rhapsody was never just entertainment. It was a piece of his soul captured forever on tape. When fans sing along to those operatic harmonies, they're keeping his voice alive. When they air guitar through the rock section, they're celebrating his fearless creativity. But the song's second major resurrection comes from an unexpected source. In 1992, a low-budget comedy called Wayne's World features a scene that changes everything. 4 friends headbanging in a car to Bohemian Rhapsody creates one of cinema's most joyful moments. That single scene reignites the song for an entirely new generation. 17 years after its debut, it climbs the charts again. High school students who weren't born in the 1970s suddenly know every word of Freddie's operatic masterpiece. The song isn't nostalgia anymore. It's reborn as part of contemporary culture. The 21st century only amplifies the legend. With the rise of streaming platforms and social media, Bohemian Rhapsody conquers technologies that Freddie Mercury never lived to see. Viral challenges, memes, and digital tributes introduce it to millions more listeners worldwide. Techniques. Queen developed to create those layered harmonies became standard practices in recording studios around the world. But perhaps the song's greatest legacy is permission. Permission for artists to ignore the rules. Permission for audiences to demand something better than the ordinary. Permission for anyone with a big dream to pursue it without apology. Every time a musician writes a song longer than 4 minutes, they're following the path Queen carved. Every time a producer layers complex harmonies, they're using techniques pioneered for Bohemian Rhapsody. Every time an artist refuses to compromise their vision, they're channeling Freddie Mercury's stubborn determination. The song has become more than music. It's a cultural artifact that represents the triumph of creativity over commerce, vision over market research, art over safety. It's proof that sometimes the most dangerous gamble creates the most lasting reward. And every time those opening piano notes play, somewhere in the world, a new generation discovers why Bohemian Rhapsody refuses to be anything other than perfect. Bohemian Rhapsody was never just a song. It was a declaration of freedom. What started as fragments in Freddie Mercury's mind became one of the most powerful forces in music history, a 6-minute journey that proved art can break every rule, defy every critic, and still conquer the world. The young men who sat in that Welsh recording studio in 1975 were gambling with everything they had: their careers, their dreams, their financial survival. They could have played it safe, written a simple love song, followed the formula that everyone else was using. Instead, they chose to create something that had never existed before. Today, almost 50 years later, Bohemian Rhapsody still fills arenas with voices singing in perfect harmony. It still dominates streaming playlists across every generation. It still moves people to tears, to joy, to that indescribable feeling that comes from witnessing something truly extraordinary. The song didn't just save Queen from financial collapse, it gave them the immortality they dreamed of. More importantly, it gave permission to every artist who came after them to dream bigger, risk more, and trust in the power of their own vision. The record executives who called it career suicide learned that sometimes career suicide becomes career resurrection. The critics who predicted failure discovered that failure and genius sometimes look identical until time reveals the difference. The radio programmers who said it would never work found themselves building their stations around it. Bohemian Rhapsody teaches us that the most dangerous path often leads to the most beautiful destinations, that the things everyone says are impossible might just be waiting for someone brave enough to make them possible. In a world that constantly tries to reduce everything to simple formulas, the song stands as proof that complexity can be more powerful than simplicity, that 6 minutes of fearless creativity can outlast decades of safe choices. So here's the question that lingers as the final piano notes fade away. What would you create if you knew you couldn't fail? What masterpiece lives in your mind, waiting for you to be brave enough to bring it into the world? Because somewhere, right now, someone is listening to Bohemian Rhapsody for the first time. Their eyes are widening as the ballad becomes opera, becomes rock, becomes legend. They're discovering what Queen knew all along, that the most beautiful music comes from the willingness to risk everything in service of something greater than yourself. That true artistry requires the courage to ignore every voice telling you it can't be done, and that sometimes when you refuse to compromise your vision, the world changes its mind about what's possible. Nothing really matters, Freddy sings as the song ends. But everything about this story proves the opposite is true. Sometimes everything matters, sometimes 6 minutes can change the world, sometimes the song that everyone said would never work becomes the song that works forever.